The crystal chandeliers blurred into streaks of gold. Juliet Chen's fingers went numb around the champagne tray as the marble floor tilted beneath her feet. 12 hours. 2 days of instant noodles. A business degree collecting dust while she served drinks to people who'd never know hunger. The glasses slipped. Crystal shattered like her pride across expensive marble. Then she was falling. Strong arms caught her before the ground could. The scent of cedar and smoke filled her lungs as her cheek pressed against silk and wool. A heartbeat, steady and sure, thundered beneath her ear. Someone call a doctor. The voice above her head cut through the ballroom like a blade. Authority. Command. Control. Juliet forced her eyes open and found herself staring into the face of Benjamin Stone. Dark eyes. Sharp jaw. The kind of face that launched business empires and broke hearts without trying. He held her like she weighed nothing, like catching falling women was just another Tuesday. "Mr. Stone, I apologize profusely." Her supervisor's voice cracked with panic. "This employee will be terminated immediately." "You'll do no such thing." Benjamin's tone dropped to something dangerous. When was the last time she had a meal break? Juliet tried to speak, to apologize, to disappear into the floor. But the words wouldn't come. "Get me a private room. Now." And just like that, the most powerful man in the city carried her out of the ballroom while 500 wealthy elites watched in stunned silence. The suite was all velvet and gold. Too soft. Too expensive. Too much. The doctor came and went, his diagnosis hanging in the air like an accusation. Severe malnutrition and dehydration. She needs food and rest. Benjamin ordered soup. Bread. Salmon. More food than Juliet had seen in weeks. "Eat slowly," he said, setting the bowl before her with hands that probably signed billion-dollar deals before breakfast. She tried. God, she tried to maintain dignity while her body screamed for sustenance. But shame burned hotter than hunger. "How much do they pay you?" Benjamin asked. "That's not relevant." "Humor me." She told him. Watched his jaw tighten like she'd just confirmed something he'd suspected all along. "And you have a degree from where?" "Columbia. Business management." "Not that it matters." "It matters." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on hers. "I attended your presentation 2 years ago. Corporate responsibility in developing markets. Brilliant work." Juliet's spoon clattered against the bowl. "You remember that?" "I remember excellence." Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken questions. Then Benjamin spoke words that would change everything. "My executive assistant is retiring in 2 weeks. The position requires intelligence, discretion, and grace under pressure. The salary is $150,000 annually, plus benefits." He paused. "I'm offering you the job." The room spun worse than when she'd fainted. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." His gaze never wavered. "The question is whether you're brave enough to accept." Juliet set down the soup. Her hands shook but her voice didn't. "Why me? There must be hundreds of qualified candidates." Something flickered in his eyes. Something that looked almost human beneath the CEO armor. "Because when I caught you tonight, you looked at me like I was just a person. Not a means to an end. That kind of authenticity is rare." The sincerity in his voice made her chest tight. She should say no. Should run. Should remember that fairy tales don't happen to girls like her. "I accept," she heard herself say. "But I have one condition. No special treatment. I earn this position or I leave." Benjamin smiled. Slow. Devastating. Real. Deal. "You start Monday." He extended his hand. She took it. His palm was warm. Calloused. The handshake of someone who'd built an empire with more than just money. "One more thing," Benjamin said, still holding her hand. "There's a reason my last assistant is retiring early. This job will test you in ways you can't imagine. The people in my world don't play fair. They'll see you as a weakness to exploit." He released her hand, but his eyes held her captive. "Can you handle that?" Juliet thought of the rent due in 5 days. The unopened bills. The Columbia diploma mocking her from the wall. The hunger that had become her constant companion. "Mr. Stone," she said quietly, "I've been handling worse my entire life." Something dark flickered across his face. Respect. Recognition. Maybe regret. Then "Welcome to Stone Empire Holdings, Miss Chen." He stood, buttoning his tuxedo jacket. "A car will pick you up Monday at 7 a.m. Dress professionally. Margaret will meet you in my office." He moved toward the door, then paused. "And Juliet?" He glanced back over his shoulder. "Eat something real this weekend. I need you sharp." The door closed behind him with a soft click. Juliet sat alone in the luxury suite, soup growing cold, reality sinking in like ice water. She'd just made a deal with the devil in a designer tuxedo. And she had no idea what she'd actually agreed to. Monday morning arrived wrapped in fog and second thoughts. The black car gleamed like a promise at her curb. The driver didn't speak. Just opened the door to leather seats and filtered air that smelled like money. Stone Empire Holdings occupied the top 15 floors of the Apex Tower. Glass and steel reaching into clouds. Juliet's reflection in the elevator looked small. Terrified. Determined. Margaret was waiting. 60-something with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "You must be the girl who fainted." No judgment. Just fact. "I'm Margaret Chen." "Yes, same last name. Distant cousins, actually. Small world." She didn't wait for a response. Just walked, heels clicking against marble like a metronome counting down to something inevitable. "Mr. Stone's schedule is inhuman. Meetings from 6 a.m. to midnight. He doesn't eat lunch. Rarely sleeps. Expects the same dedication from everyone around him." Margaret stopped outside massive oak doors. "But he's fair. Ruthless, but fair." She pushed open the doors to an office that could house Juliet's entire apartment building. Benjamin stood by floor-to-ceiling windows, silhouetted against the city sprawl. He turned when they entered. Suit sharp enough to cut. Eyes sharper. "Margaret." "Miss Chen." He nodded. "Let's begin." The first week was drowning. Meetings, calls, contracts, negotiations conducted in languages Juliet barely understood. Benjamin moved through his empire like a general through war zones. Calculated. Precise. Merciless. But he never raised his voice. Never lost control. "The Harrison deal," he'd say, and Juliet would pull files while Margaret translated the subtext. "Harrison's trying to lowball us. He thinks I'm desperate. Reschedule for next month. Let him sweat." By Friday, Juliet's head spun with information. Power plays. Hidden agendas. Money moving like water through invisible channels. Margaret left at 6 p.m. sharp. "You'll do fine," she said, squeezing Juliet's shoulder. "Just remember, Benjamin Stone didn't build this empire by trusting people. He'll test you. Don't take it personally." Alone in the office's outer reception area, Juliet organized files until the words blurred together. "You're still here." She jumped. Benjamin stood in his doorway, tie loosened, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms that suggested he did more than sign papers. "Just finishing up. It's 8 p.m. Go home. You're still here. I live here. A ghost of a smile. Metaphorically. Sometimes literally. Silence stretched. Then Benjamin spoke again. Dinner. There's a Thai place around the corner that stays open late. My treat. Call it a welcome to hell meal. It wasn't a question. But it also wasn't an order. Okay. The restaurant was small. Warm. Nothing like the places Juliet imagined billionaires ate. I hate fancy restaurants, Benjamin said, reading her expression. Too many people watching. Too much performance. They ordered pad thai, green curry, spring rolls that arrived crispy and perfect. Your presentation 2 years ago, Benjamin said, chopsticks precise. You talked about corporate responsibility. About how companies have obligations beyond profit. Do you still believe that? Juliet met his eyes. Yes. Even after working for me for a week? Seeing how the machine actually runs? Especially after. She set down her fork. You could use your power differently, Mr. Stone. Benjamin. And you're right. I could. He leaned back. But power without ruthlessness is just good intentions. And good intentions don't build empires. They don't collapse them either. Something flickered in his gaze. Surprise. Maybe respect. You're not afraid of me. Should I be? Most people are. I'm not most people. Benjamin's smile was slow. Dangerous. Real. No. You're not. He paid. They walked back to the office tower in comfortable silence. The city hummed around them, neon and noise and life. At her subway entrance, Benjamin stopped. Juliet. This job. It's going to get harder. The people in my world will target you just to get to me. They'll offer bribes. Threats. Promises. His jaw tightened. If anything happens, anything that makes you uncomfortable, you tell me immediately. Understood? I can handle myself. That's not what I asked. Their eyes locked. Something unspoken passed between them. Something that felt like the beginning of trust. Or the beginning of a trap. Understood, Juliet finally said. He nodded. Started to leave. Then turned back. That presentation. You quoted someone. Power is only as good as the hands that wield it. Who said that? You did. In an interview 5 years ago. Before you became who you are now. Benjamin froze. Every muscle in his body went still. You researched me. I research everyone I work for. What else did you find? Juliet hesitated. Then decided truth was the only currency worth spending. I found a man who started with nothing. Who built something extraordinary. Who's terrified someone will take it all away. She paused. And I found out why your assistant is really retiring early. The air between them turned electric. Dangerous. Why? Benjamin's voice was cold. Controlled. Lethal. Because she found something she wasn't supposed to find. Something about the Westfield acquisition. Juliet's heart hammered, but she didn't look away. Something that could destroy everything you've built. Silence crashed down like a guillotine. Benjamin stepped closer. Close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. Close enough to feel the danger radiating off him like heat. And what are you going to do with that information, Miss Chen? Juliet lifted her chin. My job. Which is protecting you. Even from yourself. For 5 endless heartbeats, Benjamin just stared at her. Then something shifted in his expression. The mask cracked just enough to reveal the man underneath. Monday morning. 7 a.m. My office. We need to talk about Westfield. He turned and walked away, swallowed by shadows and city lights. Juliet stood alone on the street corner, adrenaline singing through her veins. She'd just threatened a billionaire. And somehow, impossibly, he'd respected her for it. Or he was planning her destruction. 7 a.m. came too fast. Juliet stood outside Benjamin's office, coffee in hand, stomach in knots. Through the glass she could see him at his desk, phone pressed to his ear, face carved from stone. He saw her. Gestured her in. I don't care what the board thinks, Marcus. Make it happen. He ended the call. Set the phone down with careful precision. Sit. Juliet sat. Benjamin opened a drawer. Pulled out a folder thick with documents. Slid it across the desk. Westfield Properties. 12 million in real estate. Prime downtown locations. His voice was empty. Clinical. I acquired it 6 months ago. Clean deal. Clean money. Or so I thought. Juliet opened the folder. Started reading. Her blood went cold. The former owner, she whispered. Robert Westfield. He was laundering money through the properties. Yes. And you didn't know. I didn't know. Benjamin's hands were steady but his eyes blazed. But the SEC doesn't care about ignorance. They care about facts. And the fact is my name is on those properties now. Margaret found this. Margaret found this. Brought it to me 3 weeks ago. Suggested I distance myself. Retire her. Make it look natural. He leaned forward. I refused. Started an internal investigation. Hired forensic accountants. But if this gets out before I can clean it up, everything I've built collapses. Why are you telling me this? Because you already know. Because you could destroy me with a phone call. His gaze never wavered. And because I need someone I can trust. The word hung between them. Trust. Fragile as glass. Deadly as a blade. You barely know me. I know enough. Benjamin stood. Walked to the windows. When I was 22, I had nothing. Slept in my car. Ate ramen for weeks. Built my first company with borrowed tools and pure desperation. He turned. I saw that same hunger in your eyes when I caught you. That same refusal to break. Juliet's throat tightened. I need help fixing this, Benjamin continued. But I can't use my regular legal team. Too many connections to the board. Too many potential leaks. He paused. Margaret recommended you. Said you were smart enough to understand the problem. Stubborn enough to see it through. What are you asking me to do? Help me untangle this nightmare. Review the documents. Find the proof I need to show the SEC I'm a victim, not a criminal. His jaw clenched. Save my company. Save me. The vulnerability in those last 2 words nearly broke her. And if I can't? Then I lose everything. And you'll have front row seats to an empire burning. Juliet looked at the folder. At the man who'd given her a chance when no one else would. At the impossible situation that felt like quicksand. I'll need complete access. Every file. Every transaction. Every secret. Done. And I work alone. No interference. Agreed. One more thing. Juliet stood. Met his eyes. When this is over, whether I succeed or fail, you tell me the real reason you hired me. Something shifted in Benjamin's expression. Something almost like fear. Deal. The next 3 weeks were hell. Juliet barely slept. Lived on coffee and determination. Spread documents across her apartment floor like a puzzle designed by demons. Traced money through shell corporations and offshore accounts. Found patterns in the chaos. Benjamin checked in daily. Brought food. Coffee. Sometimes just sat in silence while she worked, his presence oddly comforting. "You should sleep," he'd say. "You should take your own advice," she'd reply. They fell into a rhythm. Two insomniacs fighting the same war. One night, at 2 a.m., surrounded by papers and empty takeout containers, Juliet found it. "Benjamin." He looked up from his laptop. Saw her face. "You found something." Westfield had a partner. Someone who's still active. Still using your properties. Her hands shook holding the document. "Someone on your board." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Who?" "David Chen. Head of acquisitions. Margaret's brother." The words landed like a bomb. Juliet's world tilted. "What? David Chen. Margaret's younger brother. He's been with me for 8 years. Benjamin's face was stone. "You didn't know?" "She said we were distant cousins. She never mentioned a brother in the company." They stared at each other. Pieces clicking into terrible place. "She set you up," Juliet breathed. "She found the evidence. Knew her brother was involved. Brought you someone with the same last name to take the fall if needed. And I handed you access to everything." Benjamin's voice was hollow. "God, I'm an idiot." "No. She's smart. And patient. And we just found her out. We need proof. Real proof that David's involved. I have it. Bank transfers. Coded emails. Meeting logs." Juliet pulled out another file. "But Benjamin, if we expose him, Margaret goes down too." She had to know. Had to be protecting him. She was family. The word cracked. Just slightly. Just enough. Juliet moved closer. Placed her hand over his. "Family betrays us worst of all. Trust me. I know." Benjamin looked at their joined hands. Then at her face. "Your parents. Left when I was 8. Chose drugs over me. My aunt raised me until she couldn't afford to anymore." Juliet's voice was steady but her eyes weren't. "I learned early that blood doesn't mean loyalty. I'm sorry. Don't be. It made me stronger. Made me careful." She squeezed his hand. "Made me recognize authenticity when I see it." Benjamin turned his palm up. Laced his fingers through hers. "What do we do?" "We set a trap. Get David to confess on record. Then we take everything to the SEC ourselves. Control the narrative." "And Margaret?" "Margaret made her choice when she put me in danger to protect him." Benjamin nodded. Stood. Pulled Juliet to her feet. They stood close. Too close. The air between them electric. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For not running. For staying. For fighting. Thank you for giving me a reason to." He lifted his free hand. Brushed a strand of hair from her face. His touch sent sparks down her spine. "Juliet. When this is over. There's something I need to tell you. About why I really hired you. Tell me now." "I can't. Not yet. Not until you're safe." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. His expression went cold. "David. Requesting an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. He knows we're onto him. Then we spring the trap early." Benjamin's grip on her hand tightened. "Tomorrow. 7 a.m. My office. You're going to record everything. And if it goes wrong? Then we go down fighting together. He pulled her closer. Rested his forehead against hers. Just for a moment. Just long enough for her to feel his heartbeat against her chest. I won't let them hurt you, he whispered. I promise. Juliet closed her eyes. Breathed him in. Cedar and smoke and something uniquely him. Same promise. Both ways. They stood like that, warriors before battle, knowing tomorrow would change everything. Knowing that trust and danger were now impossible to separate. 7 a.m. David Chen walked into Benjamin's office like he owned it. 50-something. Silver hair. Smile sharp as a knife. Juliet sat in the corner, tablet in hand, looking like nothing more than an assistant taking notes. The recording app was already running. Benjamin. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. David's eyes flicked to Juliet. Dismissed her. Perhaps we should speak privately. Miss Chen stays. She's handling the Westfield audit. Benjamin's voice was ice. I assume that's what this is about? Something flickered in David's expression. Too quick to catch. Too telling to miss. Actually, yes. I've been reviewing the acquisition files. There are some irregularities I think you should know about. What kind of irregularities? The former owner, Westfield. He had some questionable business partners. Money moving through unusual channels. David sat down uninvited. I'm concerned this could blow back on Stone Empire. On you personally. Benjamin leaned back in his chair. Calm. Controlled. Deadly. Interesting. Because I've been conducting my own investigation. Found the same irregularities. And something else. Oh. The money didn't stop moving when Westfield sold. It's still flowing. Through our properties. Into offshore accounts. Benjamin's eyes never left David's face. Any idea who might be facilitating that? The air turned to stone. David's smile didn't waver but his eyes went cold. Are you accusing me of something, Benjamin? I'm asking a question. Then here's my answer. No. I have no idea. David stood. But I do know that Margaret retired rather suddenly. Right after finding certain documents. Documents that might implicate you if they fell into the wrong hands. Juliet's blood froze. What are you saying? Benjamin's voice dropped to something dangerous. I'm saying Margaret was loyal to this company for 30 years. She found evidence of money laundering in the Westfield deal. Evidence with your signature on the transfer documents. David pulled out his phone. Showed them a photo. She brought it to me before she left. Asked me what she should do. The photo showed Benjamin's signature. On a transfer form. To one of the shell accounts. Forged. Had to be forged. But it looked real. That's not my signature, Benjamin said quietly. The SEC won't care. They'll see a billionaire with motive and means. They'll see you using a fall guy to cover your tracks. David glanced at Juliet. A fall guy with the same last name as your most trusted advisor. Very convenient. Juliet stood. You're lying. Am I? Or am I just smarter than both of you? David's smile was poison. Here's what's going to happen. Benjamin, you're going to sign over 40% of Stone Empire to me. Quietly. Through a series of legitimate-looking transactions. In exchange, this evidence disappears. And if I refuse? Then I go to the SEC. To the press. I'll destroy you so thoroughly that you'll wish you'd stayed in that car you slept in 20 years ago. David's voice turned ugly. And Margaret will testify that you coerced her into helping you launder money. That you threatened her family if she didn't comply. Margaret would never do that. Margaret will do anything to protect her brother. Even if it means lying under oath. David moved toward the door. You have 48 hours to decide. Choose wisely. The door closed behind him. Silence crushed down like a physical weight. Tell me you recorded that, Benjamin said. Every word. Juliet's hands shook. But Benjamin, that signature. If they have physical documents with your signature on them, forged or not, it's your word against evidence. Then we need to prove it's forged. Fast. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer. The one person I trust outside this company. Wait. Juliet grabbed his wrist. What if your lawyer is compromised too? What if David's been planning this for months? Years? Benjamin looked at her hand on his wrist. At her face. Then we're alone in this. We've always been alone in this. He set down the phone. Turned to face her fully. Juliet. There's something I need to tell you. About why I hired you. About what I knew. Her stomach dropped. What do you mean, what you knew? The night you collapsed. It wasn't random. I'd been watching you for 3 months. His voice was steady but his eyes weren't. I knew you were struggling. Knew you had a degree. Knew you were brilliant and desperate. You stalked me. I researched you. After your presentation 2 years ago, I followed your career. Watched you get rejected from every major firm despite your qualifications. Watched you sink lower and lower. He stepped closer. I knew David was dirty 6 months ago. Knew I needed someone outside the system to help me. Someone smart. Someone with nothing to lose. The betrayal hit like a fist to the chest. You set me up. From the beginning. I gave you an opportunity. You used me. Juliet's voice cracked. Everything. The catching me, the job offer, the trust. It was all manipulation. No. That's not true. Then what is true, Benjamin? Because right now I don't know if anything you've said was real. He grabbed her shoulders. Gentle but firm. This is real. What I feel for you is real. Yes, I researched you. Yes, I planned the job offer. But what happened after, the late nights, the conversations, the way you challenge me and see through my defenses? That wasn't part of any plan. How do I know you're not lying now? Because I'm telling you when I could have kept lying. Because I'm risking everything to be honest with you. His grip tightened. Because I'm falling for you and it terrifies me more than losing my entire empire. Juliet stared at him. At the man who'd saved her and used her and maybe loved her all at once. I need time. To think. To process. We don't have time. David's deadline is in 48 hours. Then you deal with David alone. I'm done being anyone's pawn. She pulled away. Grabbed her bag. Headed for the door. Juliet. Please. She stopped. Didn't turn around. Tell me one thing. One true thing. And make it count. Benjamin was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When I caught you that night, and you opened your eyes and looked at me like I was just a man who'd helped you, not a means to an end or a threat or an opportunity. In that moment, I remembered what it felt like to be human. To be seen. His voice broke. Just slightly. That wasn't manipulation. That was salvation. Juliet closed her eyes. Felt tears burn. I need to go. If you walk out that door, I'll understand. But Juliet, know this, whether you believe me or not, whether you help me or not, I will keep you safe. Even if it costs me everything. She opened the door. Walked out. And behind her, she heard the sound of a man braking. In the elevator, alone, Juliet finally let the tears fall. She'd been wrong. Fairy tales don't happen to girls like her. She just gets used by princes in disguise. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Miss Chen. My name is Robert Westfield. I believe we need to talk about Benjamin Stone. And about what really happened to my company. The elevator doors opened. Juliet stepped into a nightmare that had only just begun. The coffee shop was anonymous. Crowded. Perfect for secrets. Robert Westfield looked nothing like Juliet expected. 60 years old. Gray beard. Tired eyes that had seen too much. Thank you for meeting me, he said. I know you have no reason to trust me. I don't trust anyone anymore. Smart. He slid a folder across the table. Everything in there is true. Benjamin Stone didn't buy my properties. He stole them. Juliet's hands froze on the folder. What? David Chen approached me 2 years ago. Said Benjamin wanted my real estate portfolio. Made me an offer I couldn't refuse because he threatened my daughter if I did. Westfield's voice was hollow. I was laundering money. Small amounts. Enough to survive. David found out. Used it as leverage. So you sold. I had no choice. But the deal wasn't legitimate. The contracts were forged. The money never went where it was supposed to. He leaned forward. Benjamin knew. He orchestrated everything. Used my crimes to take my life's work for a fraction of its value. Juliet opened the folder. Started reading. Her blood turned to ice. Contracts. Signatures. Bank transfers. All pointing to Benjamin. Why are you telling me this? Because David contacted me yesterday. Said he's finally taking down Benjamin. Asked if I wanted revenge. Westfield's eyes met hers. I said yes. But then I did more research. Found out about you. About how he hired you right before the audit started. So you're the scapegoat. When the SEC comes, when the evidence surfaces, they'll find your name attached to every document. Your signature on the audit reports. Your access to the files. He pushed another paper toward her. David's been setting you up from the moment you walked into that office. The paper showed transfer requests. Audit authorizations. All with her digital signature. All forged. He's framing me for everything. Yes. Benjamin gets exposed. David takes over the company. And you go to prison for conspiracy and fraud. Westfield's voice softened. Unless you help me. Help you how? Testify. Tell them everything Benjamin did. How he manipulated you. Used your desperation. He pulled out a business card. FBI. They're already investigating. Your testimony could seal the case. Juliet stared at the card. At her ruined life spread across the table. And what do I get? Immunity. Protection. A chance to start over. At the cost of destroying Benjamin. At the cost of telling the truth. Juliet's phone buzzed. Benjamin. 10th call in an hour. She didn't answer. I need time to think. You have until tonight. After that, David makes his move. And your collateral damage. Westfield stood. Left the card on the table. Walked away. Juliet sat alone. Surrounded by lies and evidence and impossible choices. Her phone rang again. Different number. She answered. Juliet. Margaret's voice. Older. Tired. Scared. Please don't hang up. Give me one reason. Because I'm sorry. Because David's lying. Because Benjamin doesn't know the whole truth and he's going to do something stupid to protect you. Why should I believe you? Because I have cancer. Stage 4. 6 months left. Maybe less. Margaret's voice cracked. I retired because I'm dying. Not because of the evidence. Not because of David's schemes. Juliet's throat closed. I'm listening. David approached me a year ago. Told me he'd found dirt on Benjamin. Asked me to help him take over the company. I refused. So he threatened to destroy Benjamin anyway. Take everything. Margaret coughed. Long and wet. I found the Westfield evidence to stop him. To give Benjamin ammunition for when David made his move. But you brought me in. Because I knew I was dying. Knew David would come for me. And I needed someone smart enough to see through his games. Someone Benjamin would trust. A pause. I recommended you because you were the only person I'd met in 30 years who reminded me of him. Before power changed him. What are you talking about? Benjamin didn't steal Westfield's properties. David did. Used Benjamin's authority. Forged his signatures. Margaret's breathing was labored. Westfield was threatened by David, not Benjamin. But David made sure all evidence pointed to Benjamin. Set up the trap years ago. Why didn't you tell Benjamin this? Because I didn't have proof. Just suspicions. And family loyalty made me blind longer than it should have. Another cough. But I have something now. Documents David kept. Insurance in case Benjamin ever fought back. I stole them from his office 3 days ago. Where are they? Safe deposit box. First National Bank. Downtown. Box 847. Margaret's voice faded. The keys in my desk. Bottom drawer. False bottom. Combination is Benjamin's birthday. Margaret, why are you telling me this? Because you're the only one who can save him now. Because I failed him. And because I see the way he looks at you. A weak laugh. Like you're the only real thing in his fake world. I don't know if I can trust him. Then trust yourself. Trust what you felt before the doubt crept in. Trust that some things are worth fighting for even when we're terrified. Margaret's breathing hitched. And Juliet? Tell Benjamin I'm sorry. For not being brave enough sooner. The line went dead. Juliet sat frozen. Then moved. First National Bank. Margaret's desk. The pieces clicking into place. She had 3 hours before David's deadline. 3 hours to decide who she believed. 3 hours to choose between safety and sacrifice. Her phone rang. Benjamin. She answered. Juliet. Thank God. Where are you? Deciding whether you're worth saving. Silence. Then his voice, raw and honest. I'm not. But the truth is. And you deserve better than being destroyed by liars. Meet me at your office. 1 hour. Come alone. Juliet, what's going on? 1 hour. Trust me. I do. More than anyone. She hung up. 45 minutes later, Juliet had the documents. Margaret's evidence. David's insurance policy. The truth in paper and ink. Benjamin was waiting when she arrived. He looked wrecked. Haunted. Real. I have proof, she said. That David's been setting you up for years. That Westfield was coerced. That you're innocent. She laid it all out. Every document. Every lie. Every truth. Benjamin read in silence. His hands shook. Margaret did this? She's dying. Wanted to make it right. God. He covered his face. I need to see her. Later. Right now we need to move. FBI's involved. David's making his play tonight. Juliet pulled out her phone. But Benjamin. I need to know something first. If I do this. If I help you. What happens after? He looked at her. Really looked at her. Whatever you want. I sign over the company. Walk away. Disappear. Whatever makes you feel safe. That's not what I asked. Then what are you asking? Do you love me? Really? Not because I'm useful. Not because I remind you of who you were. But me. Flawed and angry and terrified me. Benjamin crossed the room. Took her face in his hands. I fell in love with you the moment you demanded to earn your position. When you looked at me like I was just a man who needed to be better. When you fought for me even when you had every reason to run. His voice broke. You're the first real thing in my life in 20 years. And I'm so sorry I made you doubt that. Juliet kissed him. Hard. Desperate. Real. When they broke apart, both were crying. Then let's burn this empire down together, she whispered. And build something better from the ashes. 2 hours later, the FBI raided Stone Empire Holdings. David Chen was arrested. Charged with fraud, conspiracy, money laundering. Robert Westfield was given immunity for his testimony. Benjamin Stone turned over every document. Cooperated fully. Resigned as CEO. The company survived. Barely. Under new management. Margaret died 3 weeks later. Peacefully. With Benjamin holding her hand. 6 months after that, on a beach neither of them had ever seen, Juliet and Benjamin stood in the surf. No empire. No wealth. No power. Just two people who'd lost everything and found each other in the wreckage. Any regrets? Benjamin asked. Juliet laced her fingers through his. Felt the sun on her face and the truth in her heart. Just one. That I didn't trust myself sooner. And now? Now I trust us. They kissed as waves crashed around them. Two people who'd learned that salvation doesn't come from power or money or desperate chances. It comes from choosing truth when lies would be easier. From choosing love when fear would be safer. From choosing each other when the whole world said to run. The sun set. The tide came in. And somewhere in the distance, a new story began. The end.